And I think that that's one of the things that we support, is bringing in both of those agencies, and my understanding is that that's the first time they've been brought together. Our borders are, as has been noted in debate of this piece of legislation, are extremely important. They're extremely important, certainly in my community. We're not far from the Canada-U.S. border on a very large international trade corridor, and so welcome anything that's going to make the CBSA more effective and certainly more accountable. Thank you.
When we return to C20 after routine proceedings, the member will have about 2.5 minutes of questions and answers, questions and comments when that time comes. Statements by members. Déclaration de député. The honourable member for Hamilton East, Stony Creek.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's absolutely imperative that all levels of government make strategic investments in the affordable housing sector to assist those that need it most. Our government's historic $72 billion national housing strategy provides supports to co-ops, nonprofits, and municipalities, programs that provide emergency shelter and housing to thousands of our most vulnerable Canadians. Mr. Speaker, we can't do it alone. We need all provinces and territories to provide the same type of investments, and unfortunately here in the province of Ontario, Premier Ford has adopted the same approach to the affordable housing file as the Leader of the Opposition and the former Prime Minister Harper. They all mistakenly believe that the private sector, through an archaic form of trickle-down economics, will solve the problem. Mr. Speaker, it's time that we take a firm approach with Premier Ford and his government on the affordable housing file. He continues to ignore the needs of our homeless population living rough. He continues to ignore the housing needs of tens of thousands of low-income seniors and people with disabilities who've waited years on the affordable housing waitlist. The provision of affordable housing is a shared responsibility, and it's time they get serious and commit to building more affordable housing for Ontarians.
Un petit rappel, a little reminder that, of course, these statements are 60 seconds, so let's make sure we try to keep them under that 60 seconds as the time goes on. L'honorable.
The member for Montmagny, Lillet, Kamouraska, Rivière-du-Loup. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On October 13 and 14 last, I organized an event called Rendez-vous Affaires 2022. The purpose of this economic event was for people living on our huge territory to get to know each other better. With the support of the 3 chambers of commerce in my riding, Montmagny, Kamouraska, Lillet, and Rivière-du-Loup, well, the event was a success, and we should be proud of that. In fact, 75 exhibitors were there, 2,000 visitors showed up, including classes of young people from schools in our area. So mission accomplished. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank my major partners, Premier Tech, Rousseau Métal, Maison Laprise, and Alstom for their significant contributions. Being a business person myself, I feel the role of the economy plays in our lives is very important, particularly in our communities, to make them attractive to businesses and employees. I'm proud of my community and my riding, Mr. Speaker. And again, mission accomplished, and long live Montmagny, Lillet, Kamouraska, Rivière-du-Loup.
The honourable member for Calgary Skyview.
Mr. Speaker, the National Access Arts Centre is Canada's only and largest disability arts organization, currently supporting more than 350 Canadian artists living with developmental and physical disabilities. These artists' works are showcased in Canadian embassies and arts presentations around the world, including an upcoming event celebrating the 60th anniversary of diplomatic relations between Canada and Korea. Another major milestone in 2023 will be the completion of the Wan Lee Community Arts Hub in Toronto. The NAAC is making great progress on its multidisciplinary arts campus project in Calgary, based on its vision to create North America's very first accessible arts hub. In 2021, the NAAC launched a project called Ways of Knowing, the very first project of its kind that will use the power of the arts to connect Canadians with disabilities to the truth and reconciliation process with Indigenous peoples. I recently had the opportunity to visit, and I would like to thank and congratulate the NAAC for their contribution to Canada and all around the world.
The honourable member for Winnipeg Centre.
Mr. Speaker, today is International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women. Every 6 days, a woman in Canada is killed by their intimate partner. Tonight, thousands of women, many with children, will be staying in shelters, and hundreds will be turned away because they are full. Many will be forced to choose between violence on the streets or violence at home. There is a desperate need for more low-barrier safe spaces and transitional houses for women and gender-diverse people. It is unacceptable that funding announced by the Liberal government in its violence prevention strategy from fall 2020 remains almost entirely unused. We also cannot address gender violence without addressing poverty. Poverty is one of the biggest factors pushing women and gender-diverse people into dangerous relationships and situations and preventing them from leaving. As we begin the 16th day of activism against gender-based violence, let's redouble our efforts to end gender-based violence in all its forms. We must act now to save lives. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
L'honorable député.
The member for Vimy. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today marks the first day of the 16 days of activism against gender violence. These 16 days are an opportunity to come together as Canadians and with partners around the world to fight against gender-based violence.
This year's theme, It's Not Just, highlights the real impact of the actions that are sometimes cast aside as playful banter, boys being boys, or locker room talk. These aggressions are not just words, and they are not just. Gender-based violence limits women's income, causes health problems, and perpetuates cycles of violence that can last for generations. We must not rest until all women are safe. Some members of this House have tried to gain popularity by appealing to ideologies and groups that are opposed to women's basic human rights. We believe that words matter and will never accept narratives that can lead to gender-based violence, which must never be tolerated in Canada. We all have a role to play in ending gender-based violence. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Saskatoon Grasswood.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Tomorrow marks the 57th Vanier Cup, the Canadian University Football Championship, and it's a dream matchup that will occur in London, Ontario. University of Saskatchewan Huskies against Laval Régior. Both teams finished 7-1 during the regular season, and both teams won in playoffs last weekend, setting up the third time they will meet in Vanier Cup history. Saskatchewan led by Scott Flory, their head coach. He has the Huskies back for the second straight time trying to win the national championship. I think we can expect a high-scoring game tomorrow. Saskatchewan led the country with 348 yards per game, thanks to fifth-year quarterback Mason Nias. Rouge Aor are led by Heck Crichton Award winner Kevin Mattel, who led the country this past year in receptions and yards. So these are the stars of the future. Good luck to both teams tomorrow in the 57th annual Vanier Cup.
All right. The honourable member for Windsor-Tecumseh.
Mr. Speaker, a few weeks ago I hosted in Ottawa a constituent, Ryan Huey, and his dog, Joe. Ryan is one of the 750,000 Canadians living with diabetic retinopathy, one of the leading causes of blindness in Canada. Despite the strong link between diabetes and sight loss, Ryan told me about the challenge of using insulin pumps safely and independently because they are not accessible to Canadians with sight loss. Can you imagine, Mr. Speaker, trying to manage your diabetes safely but being fearful of accidentally causing self-harm because of the insulin pump doesn't provide accessible feedback for the visually impaired? November is Diabetes Awareness Month. In the spirit of Sir Frederick Banting, let's show the world again just how innovative we Canadians are. Let's work together with manufacturers of insulin pumps to make sure they're accessible to people with diabetes and sight loss here in Canada and around the world. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Nepean.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to recognize and thank Barhaven Food Cupboard for its service to our community. I wish we live in a society where there is no need for organizations like food banks or shelters. But the harsh reality is that dependency on food banks is increasing. The fact we have some working Canadians dependent on food banks should be a wake-up call. Increasing demand for food bank support means more work for the volunteers. Fortunately, we have many Canadians who generously give their time for the greater good of the community. On behalf of the residents of Nepean, I would like to recognize and thank the team at Barhaven Food Cupboard, led by its president, George MacDonald, for doing great work in supporting our community. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The member for Louis Saint Laurent. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Canada has lost one of its outstanding artists, the Honourable Jean Lapointe, a multi-talented artist. He was an entertainer, a comedian, a singer, an actor, an impersonator, a juggler, a magician. He had everything to make people happy. His career spanned more than 60 years. He appeared at venues small and large. You might remember Les Gérolas, a duo he formed with Jérôme Lemay. They also appeared on The Ed Sullivan Show and played at the Olympia in Paris. But he was also a man with a social conscience. Not everyone knew it. Rather, at the time, everybody knew about addiction, but nobody talked about it. But he was one of the first celebrities to talk about his addictions. He was a great man with great humility. And boy, did he ever touch many lives. The Maison Jean Lapointe will have saved hundreds, if not thousands of lives. Personally, I will always remember him as the extraordinary Maurice Duplessis in the Radio-Canada TV show of the same name. He was an extraordinary person, and the role he played was incredible. Now's not the time to repeat what he said about the Liberal Party, but seriously, Mr. Speaker, to his family and friends, our deepest condolences.
The honourable member for Cape Breton-Canso.
Mr. Speaker, November is Diabetes Awareness Month, a time for us to reflect upon the struggles of our fellow Canadians who live every day with the disease. There are over 3 million people in the country living with diabetes, which is why I'm proud to be part of a government that just last month, Mr. Speaker, introduced our nation's first ever framework for diabetes. Steps such as these will hopefully go a long way, Mr. Speaker, toward improving the lives of Canadians. Canadians like Jacob Ellsworth, an elementary school student in my riding of Cape Breton-Canso, who lives with type 1 diabetes. Mr. Speaker, like many his age, Jacob enjoys being active through sports like hockey, but unlike many people his age, Jacob and his family bravely cope with hurdles each and every day that no child, Mr. Speaker, should ever have to worry about. Jacob is an advocate, he's an inspiration, and a champion of his own expression, and I quote, "I have diabetes, but diabetes does not have me." Mr. Speaker, we must continue our action to make diabetes a more livable disease for Jacob and for all Canadians who are affected. Thank you.
Bravo. The honourable member for King Vaughan.
Mr. Speaker, seniors are the life of our country. These Liberals need to respect our seniors, show some compassion and understanding that with the cost of inflation and the tripling of the carbon tax, we will see more and more families struggle to survive. Daily, I continue to hear stories of struggling seniors forced into shelters because they cannot afford the cost of housing or their heating bills, forced to go to food banks because they cannot afford their groceries. Meanwhile, our Prime Minister stays in a hotel, $6,000 per night, while taxpayers pay the bill. There are seniors who are homeless or live in poverty, while he continues to live in luxury. High taxes from reckless spending by this Liberal government has made Canada a country that Canadians can no longer afford. This Liberal government must stop wasting money, stop the tax increases, and start putting the lives of Canadians ahead of their political agenda. Thank you.
The honourable member for Sturgeon River Parkland.
Mr. Speaker, in November 2019, we learned that Supermax, a PP&E manufacturer, was exploiting migrant workers at its glove factory in Malaysia. The Liberal government went on to buy gloves from Supermax, costing taxpayers $231 million. The U.S. government found that these workers faced abuses such as deception, restriction of movement, forced isolation, physical and sexual violence, intimidation and threats, withholding wages, debt bond bondage, abusive working and living conditions, and excessive overtime. The Liberals claim that they stopped these shipments from entering Canada as soon as they heard about these violations against human rights. Well, that's hard to believe, since global distributors still ship these products into Canada despite not shipping them into Great Britain and the USA, where they are banned. We have even found boxes of Supermax gloves here in the parliamentary precinct, a direct violation of Treasury Board rules. I was shocked, Mr. Speaker. Shame on this government to claim that they stand up for workers and human rights while purchasing the products produced through abuse.
The member for Hull-Aylmer. Mr. Speaker, in 2002, I worked as an assistant to a professor, and thanks to that, I met Giscard Alain Alexandre. He was one of my most brilliant students, and later on, during my first election campaign, he turned out to be our best campaign worker. So the student became the teacher since then. He has remained one of my closest friends. In his career, he served ministers and even the Prime Minister, and recently he jumped into the private sector. In his free time, he keeps on living his passion, which is to serve the public good. His work helps the Black community, especially in Montreal, where he was born, and helps them prosper. In the last year, he's been fighting cancer, and soon he will have to undergo significant treatment surgery. I know that he will emerge stronger. I invite all MPs to join me in praying for him, praying that he will go through this difficult time and that he will then be able to help make Canada a better place. Thank you.
The honourable member for Elmwood-Transcona.
Mr. Speaker, today is the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women and the first day of the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. I call on the government to do more and to support organizations like the Elmwood Community Resource Centre that's been integral to the support of women, men, gender-diverse folks, and youth in our community. The centre's done a great job at recognizing their strength while addressing the impact of gender-based violence. In Canada in 2018, 44% of women self-reported experiencing some form of psychological, physical, or sexual abuse in the context of an intimate relationship. Unfortunately, we know the pandemic sadly only grew that number. We also know that of the 44% of women who self-reported, Indigenous women were 61% more likely to experience intimate partner violence. The government has to do more. Today and every day, paying lip service to the 231 calls for justice from the Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls report is simply unacceptable. The government must act on all of them. Delay costs lives.
The member for Montcalm. Mr. Speaker, this afternoon the government will be announcing an increase in EI sickness benefits. I want to remind all parliamentarians that we wouldn't even be talking about this issue if it wasn't for Marie-Hélène Dubuis and the 15 Weeks Initiative. And we wouldn't be talking about it without Émilie Sans-Façon, who spent the last moments of her life fighting to make sure that seriously ill people would never again be abandoned by the government as she herself had been. Every inch of progress made in the area of health benefits is thanks to courageous women like these two. But we have to do more. Émilie Sans-Façon, before she left us, met personally with the Prime Minister, and she explained to him that sick people need 50 weeks of support. We'll continue this fight to get those 50 weeks because healing should be the only concern of people with diseases like cancer. They shouldn't have to worry about finances. So in memory of Émilie, let's keep up the fight.
The honourable member for Saskatoon West.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians are hurting. They look around at what has happened to this country of ours over the past 7 years and realize that everything seems broken. Canada is caught in a broken experiment of woke NDP Liberal policies that removes prison sentences from violent offenders, floods our streets with illegal drugs, and increases homelessness, crime, overdoses, and death. Downtown in our city, I see the hopelessness on the faces of people every day as they take their next hit. They know they're broken, but they have no place to go. 1 in 5 families are skipping meals. 1.5 million visits to food banks in Canada in just 1 month. and over 30,000 overdose deaths since 2016. Wow. Mr. Speaker, when will it get better? Who is here to fix everything that's broken? I know a guy who's here for Canadians. The leader of the Conservative Party has a plan to put Canadians back in charge of their lives. It's time for Canadians to let our strong Conservative team fix everything the Liberals have broken.
The honourable member for Canada Carleton.
Mr. Speaker, today marks the beginning of the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. Since 2015, our government has taken action across the board to address gender-based violence, from strengthening the criminal code to creating dedicated housing for women and children escaping violence, to our new National Action Plan, and so much more. These actions, Mr. Speaker, have helped more than 1.3 million individuals experiencing violence find safe haven and access vital support in the face of gender-based violence. But our work is not done. On December 9th, organizations across Canada will be able to apply for new funding from Women and Gender Equality Canada to help organizations on the ground continue their important work. We will never accept gender-based violence in our country. Bravo. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Oral questions, question orale, the honourable member for Thornhill.
Canada's Bank Governor Tiff Macklem confirmed that if the government reduced its deficit, we'd have lower inflation. Inflation now costs every Canadian $3,500 more every year. Yep. Again, his words, not ours. Now that we know that the Prime Minister's continued extravagant spending spree is the cause of it, will they give Canadians a fighting chance and stop their spending so that they can pay their bills?
The Honourable Minister of Tourism, Associate Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, once upon a time, all members of this House respected Canada's institutions. Conservatives of that era must really be lamenting the state of their party today. A party that tells false narratives about our economy, that attacks our institutions, and that systematically refuses to support Canadians in their time of need when they need it the most. They don't have a plan. We do. Thankfully for Canadians, we're on the job.
The Honourable Member for Thornhill.
Mr. Speaker, this isn't story time. It's question period.
That's right.
The plan that he is talking about has driven 1.5 million Canadians into a food bank in a month. That's nothing to be proud of.
Absolutely.
To make matters worse, he believes that $3,500 a year more is not enough. They're reaching even deeper into the pockets of Canadians to pay for their plan to triple the carbon tax on gas, groceries, and home heating. They know the plan hasn't worked. Why push a costly, failed carbon tax on struggling Canadians?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the story that the Conservatives don't want Canadians to be told is the fact that since 2015, not one, not three, not four, not five, but 6 times at a minimum, Mr. Speaker, this Conservative government has voted against tax reductions for Canadians. In 2015, when we reduced taxes on Canadian, the middle class, they voted against. When we reduced taxes on workers, how did they vote, Mr. Speaker? They voted against. Mr. Speaker, when we got the child care program in place, how did they vote against? They voted against, Mr. Speaker. And just last week, when we reduced taxes on the small business, how did they vote? Against.
Painful.
The honourable member for Thornhill.
Mr. Speaker, the government is raising taxes on Canadians. It's tripling the carbon tax. The parliamentary budget officer says that 60% of Canadians will pay more than they ever get back. That's a tax. It'll cost an Albertan more than $2,000 after the rebate. In Ontario, almost $1,500 after the rebate. It's on page 13 of the parliamentary budget officer's report, and the minister should read it. So I want to know, are they calling the parliamentary budget officer a liar, or is today the day they'll finally be honest with Canadians about their tax plan?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, let's share the facts about where we are when we're fighting climate change. Mr. Speaker, Albertans lived through the heat dome. We saw the atmospheric river in BC. We just lived through the worst natural climate disaster in the history of our country with Hurricane Fiona. Mr. Speaker, our economists, people all the way back to the founder of the Reform Party, Preston Manning, said the best market mechanism to make sure that we fight climate change is to price pollution. We have done just that. Albertans get $1,100 more than they spend. That's the facts, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent. Mr. Speaker, inflation is having devastating effects on Canadian families, and the biggest problem is with food, which is essential. 1.5 million Canadians last month resorted to community fridges and food banks right here at home in Canada. That's the impact of inflation. But the government is a glutton when it comes to taxing people because they want to triple the carbon tax next year. Is there any minister in that government that will stand up and say, yes, raising taxes in inflationary times is a good idea? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, let's be clear with the facts. For 7 years, the Liberal government has systematically been reducing taxes on Canadians, and every time the opposition, the Conservatives, have voted against it. When we reduced taxes for the middle class, they voted against. When we reduced taxes for workers, they voted against. When we provided for cheaper childcare, they voted against. But, Mr. Speaker, on this side, we vote for Canadians. The Conservatives vote against. The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent. Here's the facts. After 7 years of Liberal rule with the carbon tax, the fact is that we are ranked 58th out of 63 when it comes to fighting climate change. It's not working, the carbon tax. The government wants to triple the carbon tax next year. And can the minister, with a straight face, stand up and say, yes, it's good news. We're raising taxes in times of inflation? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, let's be clear, let's be specific. There will be no tripling of the carbon tax next year. That's totally false. We also know that a price on pollution doesn't apply in Quebec, not federally anyways. They have their own system. Mr. Speaker, the worst storm, Hurricane Fiona, in Canadian history was a recent disaster, and the best solution is putting a price on pollution, and that's what we did.
All right. I mean, there's questions and answers happening, and I'm seeing great questions being answered and great answers being answered. But I see a lot of conversation going on, a lot of questions going on in the background. So let's just keep that background noise down a little bit, and we'll be able to hear the answers and the questions to make sure we're doing it right.
The Honourable Member for Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, the Minister of Justice has just had his I am the law moment at the Rouleau Commission. He admitted that for the purposes of the Emergencies Act, the truck convoy was not a threat to national security, but he invoked the act anyway, interpreting it more broadly than its text, and despite advice to the contrary. In other words, he interpreted it the way that suited his purposes. Mr. Speaker, the minister is not just a minister, he's also the Attorney General, and he's invoked a law, not just any law, knowing the criteria hadn't been met. Does he realize what precedent he's just set? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, clearly we have a commission of inquiry that is hearing witnesses, and we're following the works of that. And we decided to participate in the hearings and in that process. Mr. Speaker, we invoked the Emergency Measures Act because there was a situation in Canada. It was necessary. We maintained that it was necessary, and we saw the results. The occupation ended. The Honourable Member for Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, the rule of law was created to protect us from arbitrariness, to ensure the law is applied uniformly, whether you like it or not. or who's targeted by the law. The minister's just opened the door to arbitrariness for all future governments. Does he realize that a Conservative leader could have used his argument the same way against Indigenous protesters during the Wet'suwet'en crisis? Does he realize he's absolving a Conservative leader, for example, from using it against environmentalists who might block an oil pipeline? Does he realize how dangerous this precedent is? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, with all due respect to my colleague, last winter there was a situation that was unprecedented. The consequences that were visited on workers, on families, with a situation that was very complicated and very harsh. That is why the government took a very serious decision to invoke the Emergencies Act. Earlier this week, I provided my testimony to set out all the reasons for the decision we took. And we're very looking forward to seeing the final report of Justice Rouleau. Thank you.
This week, London's Children's Hospital has seen an influx of kids as a result, has had to delay surgeries. Parents are agonizing about care for their children. And today, months too late, the health minister announced no new solutions to address this crisis. His government walked away from meetings with provinces and did nothing for months as pharmacies ran out of children's medication. Why isn't the health of Canadian children a priority for this government? When will this government stop blaming everyone else and start taking this healthcare crisis for our kids seriously?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Health.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'd like to thank my honourable colleague for the very important question and the attention to this extremely important matter. Mr. Speaker, next week, an exceptional shipment of child analgesics will arrive in Canada. Our domestic producers have indicated that they've ramped up production here at home, and we've done everything that we can for the last 5 months to ensure that pediatric hospitals across the country have enough supply. It's been a really, really tough cold and flu season. I urge every Canadian to encourage sharing what they've got, buying only what they need, and taking care of themselves by wearing a mask and getting vaccinated whenever they can. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Windsor West.
Windsor was under siege during last winter's illegal protests. Residents lost their employment, schools and doctors' offices closed, and people lost contact with their families. The City of Windsor stepped up to clear the blockade of the Ambassador Bridge in a professional way that became an example for Ottawa, but it came with a price tag of $5.7 million. And who is paying the price? Windsor residents, including the affected area that has high child poverty, low incomes, and immigrants. And who is not paid? The federal government. What will it take for this government to respect the people of Windsor and pay for the harm of their lack of action caused? And most importantly, why are they sticking it to the people who followed the law and did all the right things?
Before I recognize the Minister, I'm just going to remind members that when we're joining us virtually to have a neutral background when we're doing our interventions. The Honourable Minister.
I want to thank my colleague. Windsor West. I also want to thank my colleague, the member for Windsor-Tecumseh, for being a strong advocate for the devastating consequences that were visited by the illegal occupation on workers, on families, on the small businesses that dot Huron Church Line in the road that leads to the port of entry that leads to Detroit, where we do our most significant day-to-day trade with our most important trading partner, the United States of America, Mr. Speaker, and that's precisely why we invoked the Emergencies Act. We invoked the Emergencies Act to not only restore public safety, but to maintain public safety, and we will continue to work with the City of Windsor and other communities which were unprecedentedly impacted by this to make sure they're made whole. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Kelowna Lake Country.
Mr. Speaker, the Governor of the Bank of Canada confirmed this week what Conservatives have been saying, that inflation is higher because of the Liberals' wasteful spending. He also said that the average Canadian is paying $3,500 more a year because of inflation.
Wow.
That's not per family, that's per person. No wonder people can't afford to heat their homes. Will the Liberals stop forcing their failed carbon tax on hardworking Canadians?
The Honourable Minister of Tourism and Associate Minister of Finance.
Are facing a tough time, as are people around the world, due to rising global inflation. And this weekend, Mr. Speaker, residents in my own riding of Edmonton Centre thanked us for reducing childcare because they said it's really making a difference. But Mr. Speaker, we're doing more than that for the residents of Kelowna Lake Country and people across the country by eliminating interest in student apprentice loan interest, by speeding up the Canada Worker benefit, by providing a $500 housing top-up, by providing dental care to 500,000 kids, by making housing more affordable. And Mr. Speaker, it may not matter to some Conservatives that we're putting $500 in people's pockets, but we're doing it because it's the right thing to do.
Honourable member for Kelowna Lake Country.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the Liberals would have everyone believe that Canadians have never had it so great. You know, I was speaking with a senior from my community recently who was forced to make the tough decision to sell his home because he couldn't afford to live in it anymore. I attended a fundraiser in Joe Rich in my community where neighbours were coming together to raise money so that neighbours could afford basic necessities. This is Canada. This is what's happening. Stop the pain. Will the Liberals stop forcing their failed carbon tax on hardworking Canadians that can barely afford basic necessities?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Seniors.
Mr. Speaker, day in and day out, Conservatives stand up and profess to support seniors. Year after year since we've come into government in 2015, they voted against everything that we've done for seniors. Mr. Speaker, that dog won't bark. Canadian seniors know who has their back, and it's not the Conservative Party of Canada.
Good. The Honourable Member for Lakeland.
Mr. Speaker, the NDP Liberal Costly Coalition's carbon tax makes everything more expensive. Half of Canadians are already $200 away from bankruptcy each month. They now have to pay more in taxes than they can afford in food, clothing, and shelter combined. The prices for gas, groceries, and home heating are at record highs, and a record number of students, seniors, families, and working Canadians have to go to food banks. So when will the Liberals stop forcing their failed carbon tax on struggling Canadians?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Environment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and good news, Mr. Speaker. Good news particularly for Atlantic Canadians. On July 1st, Mr. Speaker, the pricing of pollution and the climate action rebate will be coming to 3 Atlantic provinces. A family of 4 will receive up to $248. Your home province, Mr. Speaker, $248 in Nova Scotia, $240 in PEI, $328 in Newfoundland and Labrador, and that comes quarterly, Mr. Speaker. 8 out of 10 families will benefit, Mr. Speaker. The Conservatives should stop the climate denial and get on board with climate change.
The Honourable Member for Lakeland.
But, Mr. Speaker, the fact is that carbon tax is up and so are emissions. On top of that, the Liberals' claims about rebates are misleading because they're only talking about the carbon tax line item on people's bills. But their own budget watchdog confirms what Conservatives have always warned. Carbon taxes drive up the cost of everything, so most Canadians pay more than they get back. That's why the PBO says, quote, most households incur a net loss because of the carbon tax. Yeah. So the tax is up, emissions are up, prices are up, and the Liberals will make it 3 times worse. Why won't they axe their failed carbon tax?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Environment.
As usual, Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives are peddling misinformation. Emissions are going down. We're on track to make our targets by 2030, Mr. Speaker. But let's listen again to the Conservative record. They cut $350 million from the Environment and Climate Change budget. They withdrew from the Kyoto Climate Accord, which blew up our emissions targets, Mr. Speaker. They did nothing for 10 long years, Mr. Speaker, and now they're blaming us for their inaction.
The Honourable Member for Costa Bay, Central Notre Dame.
Mr. Speaker, Conservatives don't lash out at hardworking Canadians when they want their concerns to be heard. But that's exactly what the senior minister from Newfoundland and Labrador did this week when he said he's sick and tired of people talking about the cold weather. Atlantic Canadians are sick and tired of being told to sit down, stop complaining, and look the other way while this government reaches into their wallets and takes our hard-earned cash to pay for policies that just don't work. Mr. Speaker, when will the minister from St. John's South Mount Pearl apologize for his shameful comments and implore his party to axe the tax?
Yeah!
The Honourable Minister of Tourism.
Mr. Speaker, I'll tell you what's shameful. I'll tell you what's shameful, Mr. Speaker. It's when Conservatives vote...
Order. The Honourable Minister of Finance. The Honourable Minister of Tourism.
Thanks, Mr. Speaker. Let's talk about the Conservative record on reducing taxes for Canadians doesn't exist. So there's not a lot to say. But I can tell you about the Liberal record on cutting tax, Mr. Speaker, which is the Canada Child Benefit, they voted against. Cutting taxes on the middle class, they voted against. $15 minimum wage, they voted against. Providing dental and rental supports for 500,000 kids. How did they vote, Mr. Speaker? Against.
The honourable member for Costa Bay Central Notre Dame.
Mr. Speaker, we've had multiple votes where we've asked this government to vote with us to get rid of carbon tax and reduce HST. Just this week, the voice of the common man, VOCM, in Newfoundland and Labrador, released a poll. 91% of respondents said a federal carbon tax is not necessary in light of high fuel prices. The people of Newfoundland and Labrador and the Maritimes have seen the failure of carbon tax in the rest of Canada. They've heard the PBO tell them that 60% of Canadians pay more than they receive in carbon tax. So will the Prime Minister, if he won't listen to Conservatives, won't listen to the PBO, will he listen to the voice of the common man and axe the carbon tax?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Environment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And more good news for Atlantic Canadians. In 3 provinces, they are going to have access to the Climate Action Rebate, and that's going to put more money in their pockets, Mr. Speaker. But even more good news, Mr. Speaker. Hundreds of millions of dollars will be flowing into those 4 Atlantic provinces to help them move away from polluting, expensive heating oil, Mr. Speaker, to greener forms of energy, Mr. Speaker. We're focused like a laser beam on affordability, on fighting climate change. The Conservatives are focused on neither.
Hear, hear.
Well, Honorable Député de
The honourable member for Joliette. Mr. Speaker, the federal government is moving up the deadline for Quebec to submit infrastructure projects by 2 years, or else they will keep $2.7 billion our cities are due. They're pushing our municipalities and threatening to withhold every penny not spent by March 31st. Meanwhile, yesterday, the federal government announced a new $1.6 billion climate change infrastructure program. Is that going to be funded with the money they plan to steal from Quebec municipalities at the end of March? The Honourable Minister. Not at all, Mr. Speaker, not at all. The Honourable Member for Joliette. Mr. Speaker, we're concerned because this won't be the first time this government has stolen money from our municipalities. Last June, that's precisely what they did with $342 million from another infrastructure program. So yes, we're concerned when this government threatens to keep every unspent penny by March 31st, because when it comes to stealing money from cities, this government keeps its word. Why not cooperate and announce that the unspent money will simply be transferred to Quebec? Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, I'm concerned to see my colleague from Quebec disagreeing with the idea of helping all Canadians, including Quebecers, to get ready for infrastructure issues affected by climate change. My colleague, the Minister for National Revenue, has seen firsthand the damage that Hurricane Fiona did in the Magdalene Islands. We're going to set up a program that will help Quebec municipalities and Quebecers and Quebec governments to prepare for these events in the future, and I'm surprised my colleague appears to be against that.
For Haldeman, Norfolk.
CSIS has confirmed that they are currently investigating lethal threats to Canadians from Iran. Iranian Canadians have begged this Liberal government to list the IRGC as a terrorist organization. How can this Liberal government say that it is using all the tools at its disposal, yet fail to take the basic step against a regime that has killed and is threatening to kill more Canadians? When will the government prioritize the safety of Canadians and list the IRGC as a terrorist organization?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
I would submit to my colleague that we've gone further by using a very sparingly provision under the Immigration Refugee Protection Act that not only designates members of the IRGC, but the entirety of the Iranian regime itself, which will target those who are most responsible for the transgressions of human rights and women's rights on the ground, Mr. Speaker. And as a result, Canada will never be used as a safe haven for the suborning of any kind of transgression of human rights, Mr. Speaker. We're putting $77 million on the front lines of the law enforcement community to make sure that happens. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Barrie Innisfil.
On a Quebec radio show this week, former CSIS director and national security advisor to this Prime Minister, Richard Fadden, questioned the Prime Minister's denial that he was briefed on Chinese government interference in the 2019 election. He said, and I quote, "I would have a hard time believing that no one would not have spoken to the Prime Minister about it." If the former CSIS director and national security advisor doesn't believe the Prime Minister's story, why should Canadians? After all, he's denied things in the past that have been proven to be true. Did the Prime Minister receive any briefings, verbal or written, on foreign election interference? Yes or no?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, I would remind my colleague and all members in the chamber that the Prime Minister receives briefings all the time with regards to intelligence and any threats to our national security, including potential foreign interference as it relates to our democratic institutions, Mr. Speaker. And that's why independent reviews were launched and confirmed the free and fair status of the elections in 2019 and 2021. And we will continue to ensure that national security apparatuses in this country have all of the tools that they need to protect our democratic institutions. Thank you.
Honourable Member for North Okanagan-Shuswap.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister stated China and other countries are continuing to play aggressive games with our democracies, so we must have been briefed. Later, he said he does not have information on election interference from China. Either he has a selective memory or a very short one. Let's try to refresh it. Has the Prime Minister received any briefings or memos on election interference in Canada?
Hear, hear.
The Honourable Minister of Intergovernmental Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, my friend across the aisle knows very well that our government took historic steps because we take this issue very seriously to put in place in 2019 the Critical Incident Panel chaired by national security experts and involving the clerk of the Privy Council. This group of independent experts, Mr. Speaker, review during an election period any allegations of this sort, and if it meets the threshold, they report to Canadians that there are significant concerns. That was in place in 2019, that was in place again in 2021, and I'm surprised my colleague isn't reassured by the fact that they didn't report out to Canadians.
As I've said before, I don't mind a little bit of banter back and forth, but when we're just yelling for the sake of yelling, it's not becoming of the chamber.
The Honourable Member for Montmagny, Lillet, Kamouraska, Rivière-du-Loup. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ever since the media reported that the Chinese Communist regime was trying to influence the outcome of the Canadian election, the Prime Minister has said he didn't know about it and he wasn't informed. But surely he knows something. It's impossible for a Prime Minister to be kept in the dark by his own intelligence services. So the question is, did he or did he not get briefings or memos on Chinese election interference? Yes or no? The Honourable Minister of Intergovernmental Affairs. Mr. Speaker, our government shares the concerns of all Canadians about ensuring that our elections are free, open, and democratic. As my colleague knows full well, in 2019, we did something that the previous Harper government had never done. We set up a panel of experts presided by the head of the Privy Council to ensure that our elections are indeed free and democratic. And as soon as they are aware of a concern, they have to report that to Canadians. They didn't do that in 2019. They didn't do that in 2021, precisely because our elections were free and democratic.
Dinuk Askey.
Mr. Speaker, communities need to be ready before a crisis hits, not after. It took years for the Liberals to finally announce a climate adaptation strategy, a strategy that even they deem insufficient. It is underfunded and fails to deliver the urgent help communities need to face the catastrophic impacts of the climate crisis. We need to use every tool at our disposal, including changing the way Canada's infrastructure bank does its work. Indigenous and northern communities are already bearing the brunt of climate change. Why are the Liberals shortchanging regions like ours?
The Honourable Minister of Intergovernmental Affairs and Infrastructure.
Mr. Speaker, I thank my colleague for the question. I appreciated a discussion she and I had in terms of making the infrastructure bank more responsive to Indigenous communities and to the fight against climate change. That's exactly what our government's doing. And Mr. Speaker, our adaptation strategy is designed specifically to support communities like hers that are very vulnerable from these extreme weather events. Yep. My colleagues made an important announcement this week, Mr. Speaker. This is a continuation of the work that our government has already been doing. And the good news for my colleague, Mr. Speaker, is we intend to continue doing more and more in the coming months.
Hear, hear. The honourable member for Port Moody Coquitlam.
Mr. Speaker, almost 1 million Canadians with a disability are living in poverty. This government has an opportunity to fix that by improving the Canada Disability Benefit. That's why the NDP proposes to include a minimum income in Bill C-22. This ensures people living with a disability can make ends meet and live in dignity. Will the minister accept the NDP amendment to provide an adequate income for people living with a disability to lift them out of poverty? Yes or no?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Speaker, since 2015, we have taken historic steps toward building a barrier-free Canada. In addition to the $112 million committed to in Budget 2021 with Budget 2022, we are investing nearly $300 million in disability inclusion, including an employment strategy for persons with disabilities and funding to support the creation of materials for persons with print disabilities. We also introduced the framework legislation to create the historic Canada Disability Benefit that will lift millions of Canadians out of poverty. And we also released Canada's first ever Disability Inclusion Action Plan, which establishes a robust employment strategy and enhances eligibility for government disability programs and benefits. Mr. Speaker, we all benefit when everyone participates equally in society and has the support that they need. Thank you.
The honourable member for Willowdale.
Mr. Speaker, our government understands full well how important it is to stand up for consumers and to assist Canadians with their living expenses. Consequently, we recently enhanced resources available to the Competition Bureau and even more recently launched a review of the Competition Act. Would the Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Industry explain to us why this is timely and necessary?
Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Industry.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I thank my colleague from Willowdale for his interest in and advocacy for this important announcement. Maintaining up-to-date competition law is key to growing our economy, to making sure Canadian consumers are protected, and ensuring businesses can effectively operate in a competitive marketplace. The Competition Act review will improve enforcement methods and improve competition policy. Mr. Speaker, we'll continue working to support Canadians, workers, and businesses in our modern and evolving economy.
The honourable member for Kamloops Thompson Caribou.
Mr. Speaker, recent statistics tell us that this liberal, soft-on-crime approach has failed. People in my community are tired of being victimized. They're afraid to walk alone at night. They're afraid for their children. And they should be worried. Gang-related homicides are up 92%. And this Liberal government's reaction, house arrest for violent gun criminals. When will this Liberal government realize that their soft-on-crime approach has failed?
The Honourable Minister of Justice and Attorney General of Canada.
Mr. Speaker, nothing can be further from the truth. What we are doing with our various policies, Mr. Speaker, is ensuring that serious crime always gets treated seriously and that we have a fight against gangs, that we strengthen our border measures in order to take serious crime seriously. Mr. Speaker, former Supreme Court Justice Michael Moldaver implored us to spend less resources on parts of the criminal justice system where there was no threat to public safety, and that we shouldn't be incarcerating people at that end of the spectrum. That's what Bill C-5 does. Mr. Speaker, nobody can accuse Michael Moldaver of ever being soft on crime.
The honourable member for Kamloops Thompson Caribou.
No threat to public safety from people who do drive-by shootings, who can now serve their sentence on house arrest? I don't think so, Mr. Speaker. These Liberals have taken a sledgehammer to 20 years of reductions in violent crime. Homicides are up. Violent crime is up. But one thing, if this Liberal government has a say, will be down, and that is sentencing for gun crimes. When will this Liberal government end their soft on crime approach and keep Canadians safe?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Given the advanced stage at which Bill C-21 is being debated by the Standing Committee on Public Safety, I would have hoped my colleague would have seen that the government proposes to raise maximum sentences against hardened criminals who would terrorize our communities with the drive-by shootings that he describes in his question, Mr. Speaker. And in addition to that, I'm somewhat surprised that the Conservatives did not support the fall economic statement where we invested an additional $137 million to stop the illegal smuggling that he's concerned about, Mr. Speaker. The only thing the Conservatives have put on the table is they want to make assault-style rifles again legal again, and that's wrong, Mr. Speaker. They need to be sure that they're on the right side of this issue. Thank you.
Honorable député de Bellechasse-les-Etchemins-Lévis.
Bonjour, Monsieur le Président. Le nombre.
Mr. Speaker, the number of homicides is on the rise in Canada. 788 cases in 2021. That's 2 cases a day. In Quebec, there were 88 homicides, a number that is also on the rise. This is the highest national rate since this Prime Minister took office. The Liberals have failed in their duty to ensure that Canada is a country where citizens feel safe. Will this government finally do its job and protect Canadians? The Honourable Minister of Public Safety. Mr. Speaker, the short answer is yes. That is exactly why we introduced Bill C-21 that offered more tools for police services. Surveillance tools to disrupt criminal organizations that want to illegally import firearms. That is exactly why we propose to increase the level of sanctions and penalties for organized crime, and I hope the Conservatives will finally support that bill. Thank you. The Honourable Member for Bellechasse-les-Etchemins-Lévis. Mr. Speaker, Canadians feel less and less safe in their communities, and yet this government is doing absolutely nothing to help them. That's the case of women who need to go out at night. They lowered penalties for certain violent crimes. This clemency from Liberals is imprudent and is endangering Canadians' lives. When will they do the right thing and deal harshly with violent crime? The Honourable Minister of Public Safety. Mr. Speaker, everyone is concerned about victims, especially women who are disproportionately impacted by crimes involving weapons. That's why our latest bill introduces a protocol to better protect women. So when will the Conservatives finally support this important initiative from the government to better protect all Canadians? The time is now. The Honourable Member for Lac-Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, the federal government is worse than ever when it comes to dealing with employment insurance. Did you know what officials are saying to people who are waiting for their benefits for months because their file is caught in the system? They tell them to ask help from their loved ones to pay for their groceries. That's where we're at. This was revealed in Lac-Saint-Jean. Our workers don't need charity. They're asking for the benefits that they paid for their entire careers. When is the government going to send them their money? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Employment.
Workers' backs during COVID and the pandemic and the worst of that crisis, but we also understand that Canada needs an EI system for the 21st century moving forward. That's why we consulted widely with unions, workers, employers, and other partners from coast to coast to coast to build an EI system that meets the needs of Canadians. We are committed, Mr. Speaker, to strengthening rights for workers employed by digital platforms, establishing new provisions in the Income Tax Act to ensure their work counts towards EI and CPP, and with Budget 2022, we are investing $110 million to extend the existing seasonal pilot until October 2023. Modernizing a system that serves millions of Canadians each year is a serious task, and we are taking the time.
The député de Beauport, Côte-de-Beaupré, Île-Orléans, Charles Levoix.
Monsieur le Président, les délais pour l'assurance.
Mr. Speaker, delays for employment insurance are endless. But it's even worse for seasonal workers. They already know that they're going to spend the winter in misery because they no longer qualify for EI since the rules suddenly changed. Mr. Speaker, seasonal work is at the heart of the main economic drivers in Quebec's regions. Letting these workers languish in a dark winter threatens labor retention in our industries. It threatens the entire economy of regions like mine. So, when is this promised reform of employment insurance coming? When will the government understand that it is urgent? The Minister of Families. Mr. Speaker, we are working with workers and unions and organizations and businesses to ensure that we present a reform of the EI system. I am also working with my counterparts and members of the Bloc Québécois to help individual cases where delays have had an impact in order to try and help them. When it comes to seasonal workers, we are working with the government of Quebec, and this important work is ongoing.
Senator.
Mr. Speaker, Japan announced it's rescinding any increase to its carbon tax because it's causing inflation. This leaves Canada as the only G7 country that has not repealed its inflationary carbon tax increases. Every major economy is repealing these taxes because of the effect they're having on food, fuel, home heating, and everything else. Canada is the outlier. What does this finance minister think she knows that the rest of the world is missing?
The Honourable Minister of Tourism and Associate Minister of Finance.
Carefully during this question period, and all this talk of axes reminds me of a famous song from the Conservative chorus, which is the Conservative austerity shuffle. How does it go, Mr. Speaker? Cut a little here, cut a little there, cut a lot here, cut a lot there. And who is responsible? They were. And who was damaged by that, Mr. Speaker? Seniors and veterans and families and scientists and our environment and our international reputation. Not on our watch, Mr. Speaker. We are going to build this economy, support Canadians, and do the right thing.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. No, I'm not there yet. The honourable member for Calgary Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Carbon taxes are designed to be inflationary. They are meant to add taxes to cost everything more. Inflation is not 40-year highs, destroying the savings of hardworking Canadians and everything they need to take home. While the government is collecting more taxes in this scheme, hardworking Canadians have less in their pockets. It's time this minister took a lesson from all her peers around the world. Why is she going to be the last to figure out that she has to repeal this tax?
Yeah.
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I find it highly questionable that a member who lived through the Calgary floods is saying that the best market mechanism to actually combat climate change should somehow not be in place in this country. Fiona, atmospheric rivers, the heat dome in my city, in my province just last year. Mr. Speaker, the best market mechanism, emissions down in 19, emissions down in 20. Mr. Speaker, that side of this House can't even resolve itself to climate change. We have, we will, we're doing the right thing. They don't have to be happy about it, but we are, and so are Canadians.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 questions to go, really. 8 questions to go. The honourable member for Desnethe, Miss Nippy, Churchill River.
Mr. Speaker, not a single climate target met, not one. This Liberal tax plan, disguised as a climate plan, unfairly targets rural and remote communities. In northern Saskatchewan, driving is absolutely necessary. People travel great distances for groceries and medical appointments. Freight costs are significant on every item, on every shelf, everywhere. And heating our homes at -30 is not a luxury. Mr. Speaker, will these Liberals finally cancel their failed carbon tax that is crippling Canadians?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Environment and Climate Change.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Like the honourable member, I am from the prairies, Mr. Speaker, and no region of the country has been hit more hard than the prairies. 2, Mr. Speaker, not just one. 2 $1 billion floods, 1 in 300-year weather events, the worst drought in over 50 years, Mr. Speaker, which devastated farmers, Mr. Speaker. The costs of climate change are rising. The Conservatives are in denial, Mr. Speaker. They need to get serious about climate change.
Honorable député de Lac Saint-Louis.
Président, alors que nous
Mr. Speaker, As we recover from the COVID-19 pandemic, we must address existing challenges which worsened for many people in Canada over the last 2 years. I was pleased to learn this week that the Minister of Health and the Minister of Mental Health and Addictions announced an agreement with Quebec to continue to improve access to home and community care and mental health and addiction services. Can the minister inform the House of this agreement?
The Honourable Minister.
I thank the Honourable Mr. Félix-Louis for his excellent work, especially in the file of palliative care. The $270 million announced on Monday will help fill gaps and provide Quebecers with better access to mental health, prevention, and addiction services, especially for young people. This agreement is essential as our government continues to work to ensure that people from coast to coast have better access to mental health care and addiction support services. They're high-quality services, and they will be offered in a timely manner.
The Honourable Member for Chatham-Kent-Leamington.
Mr. Speaker, everything this Liberal government touches gets broken. $54 million on an ArriveCan app that could have been built for $250,000. 10,000 people wrongly sent into quarantine because of this faulty app, causing mental duress and financial hardship. Inflation, house prices, rent, groceries, overdoses, violent crime are all at generational highs. Will these Liberals just stop trying to build back better and leave things as they found them?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Health.
Mr. Speaker, this government will never apologize for trying to be better. Progress is based on better. And chaos, the kind of chaos that those members are trying to ensue, is the enemy of progress. Mr. Speaker, from the beginning of this pandemic, we have been there for Canadians. We've been there to support them with wage subsidies, with CERB. We're supporting them through rental supports and dental supports. Just a couple of weeks ago, Mr. Speaker, we doubled their HST return rebates, and next year we are going to be there with dental supports for their kids. Mr. Speaker, this party opposite is all about slogans, no solutions.
The Honourable Member for Cypress Hills Grasslands.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the Liberals break everything they touch. Daryl is a small business owner in Saskatchewan, and he has waited 11 months to hire a foreign worker, but he's stuck in limbo waiting for a final approval. And he's not alone. 57% of the files in the system are beyond the acceptable processing timeline set by this government. And now they want to add another 500,000 applicants to the existing backlog of 2.4 million people. When will the Liberals quit breaking everything they touch so Daryl can finally get the help that he needs?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Employment.
Speaker, temporary foreign workers are absolutely vital to the Canadian economy. Employers should be able to obtain decisions on whether they can hire TFWs in a timely manner. That's why we are taking additional measures to address labor shortages, including removing the cap on low-wage positions for employers in seasonal industries, extending LMIA validity from 9 to 18 months, expanding flexibility for LMIA applications in low-wage occupations, and increasing the maximum employment duration for high-wage and global talent streams from 2 to 3 years. We will continue to work with employers to ensure their solutions meet their needs. Thank you.
Good job. The Honourable Member for Lanark, Frontenac, Kingston.
Mr. Speaker, unfettered access by incarcerated individuals to spiritual guidance from prison chaplains is a key component of recovery and plays an important role in reducing the chance of reoffending. Equitable access to this guidance across faith groups is also a charter right. So it is disturbing to learn that incarcerated Canadians from a number of faiths, including over 1,000 Muslims, have no access to chaplain services in their own faith. Why has this Liberal government broken the prison chaplain system and allowed this situation to develop?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank my colleague for raising this issue, and in fact I have been in touch with a number of colleagues on both sides of the House regarding this issue. I want to assure my colleague that we are in touch with Correctional Services Canada so that those inmates who are fulfilling their sentences are able to exercise their rights under the Charter during this season. Thank you very much.
The Honourable Member for Fredericton.
Mr. Speaker, as Canadians feel the impacts of the climate crisis, from extreme heat and wildfires to floods and storms, there is immense urgency to build resilient communities. Yesterday marked another important step forward to equip Canadians to face the mounting impacts of the disrupted climate with the release of Canada's National Adaptation Strategy. Can the Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Environment and Climate Change tell this House how this strategy will help to protect people and communities from coast to coast?
Parliamentary Secretary.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I want to thank the member for Fredericton for her long and strong environmental advocacy. Mr. Speaker, our government has launched Canada's first ever National Adaptation Strategy to help protect communities from coast to coast to coast, with $1.6 billion in new investments and 84 focus actions. Taking measures to adapt can save lives, avoid damage to communities, and spur innovative technologies and jobs. Adapting to climate change requires all orders of government, the private sector, and Canadians to work together to build resilient communities and a stronger economy. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Cowichan-Malahat-Langford.
Mr. Speaker, this week a group of terminally ill cancer patients and their doctors came to Ottawa calling for regulations for the medical use of psilocybin. Using psilocybin can alleviate clinical depression, anxiety, chronic pain, and people's dependence on substances like opioids and alcohol. This could even mean fewer medical assistance and dying requests in the future. This government has the tools to help people by lessening their pain and helping improve their treatment, but the Liberals aren't using them. When will the Liberals provide the needed funding for research and clinical trials for psilocybin so that doctors can treat people's chronic suffering?
The Honourable Minister of Mental Health.
Mr. Speaker, our government is prepared to use every tool available to address mental illness of Canadians and recognize the need to explore all possible treatments. While psychedelics have shown promise in clinical trials, further research is still needed, and we are funding that. Currently, the best way for patients to access psilocybin is through the participation in a clinical trial. Alternatively, patients can talk with their healthcare provider to inquire about the possibility for them to submit a special access program request and receive a prescription and be supervised. Lastly, patients can request an exemption on compassionate grounds when other paths are unsuitable.
The Honourable Member for Spadina for York.
Mr. Speaker, we have pretend Chinese diplomats operating pseudo-police stations in Canada and intimidating Chinese Canadians. We know of China's interference in our electoral process. There are also Chinese spies infiltrating Canadian businesses. A wealth of evidence also points to the Iranian regime stalking and intimidating Iranian Canadians. Mr. Speaker, our country has many exemplary citizens who left China and Iran to live in a free Canada. Is the government going to continue its do-nothing approach with the undiplomatic actions of China and Iran, or will it act to finally stand up for our citizens?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
We are exhausting every effort and are remaining on guard against foreign interference, and that is why you've heard the RCMP make very strong pronouncements about these so-called police stations, Mr. Speaker. That is why we declared the entirety of the Iranian regime under IRPA to be sure that Canada can never be a safe haven for the subordinating or the supporting of any kind of transgressions against human rights, Mr. Speaker. We will always stand up for human rights, both here and around the world. Thank you very much.
And that's all the time we have for question period today. For those of you who are on your way out, please travel safely. We'll see you on Monday. There you go. Daily routine of business, and this is going to be a quick one, so I'm going to ask everybody to sort of move their way. If they're staying in, to stay in. If they're moving their way out, to move their way out. Tabling of documents. Dépôt de projet de loi émanant du gouvernement.
Introduction of government bills. Statements by ministers. Reports from interparliamentary delegations.
Of committees. Introduction of private members' bills. First reading of Senate public bills. Motions. Presenting petitions.